Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a list of 10 different resources for writers. This list is comprised of various different kinds of resources, some of which are going to be where to get professional advice on the craft of writing, where to get information about publishing, and also just the development of your characters, your worlds, etc. I've actually partnered with one of the resources on this list, and that would be Campfire. I had actually checked out Campfire quite a while ago on my own because I had heard good things and I was very interested in their timeline feature as well as some of their other features, and since then they have kind of bulked up. They have so many different functions that are so useful regardless of the genre that you are writing, but I think it's especially useful if you are writing fantasy and science fiction or anything that doesn't necessarily take place in our own world, because they have so many features that have to do with character development, character arcs, character relationships, as well as world building. They also have an extremely helpful timeline feature, and you can combine this with your characters, their arcs, and their development throughout the story. Also, it's just a great visual aid for you to see when things are going to occur. What's nice about Campfire too is it's a one-time purchase. You don't have to pay for some kind of subscription to get their features every month. You download the software, you pay for a one-time, and then it's yours. It's also highly customizable, which I think is so much fun, because part of the thing that I personally love so much about writing is the creativity part of it, and just having the ability to make it go from this simple template essentially to this what feels like your world fleshed out right in front of you is just so cool. The next resource on this list would actually be a channel here on YouTube, and that would be iWriterly. This channel was started by the lovely Meg, who has a lot of insider information when it comes to publishing. She actually has experience working in that field, so she knows firsthand what agents are looking for, what they aren't looking for. She can give you tons of helpful tips for querying agents, and also, she has a lot of experience when it comes to editing, so she knows exactly what you should and shouldn't do in your manuscripts. She's kind enough to have this channel where she shares all of this information, and she does so in a way that is so professional but also extremely helpful. She is so fantastic at breaking things down, simplifying them, and just presenting everything in such a wonderful way. If you are looking for basically any information when it comes to the craft of writing, what to do, what not to do, and how to get your manuscript noticed by agents, she has every little bit of information that you could possibly want. I highly recommend checking her out. Staying along those same lines, we also have Molly Reads. Molly has experience both as a freelance editor and as an editor working for a publisher. She knows what she is doing. She is incredibly professional, and she's also incredibly kind. She shares a lot of her professional tips with people for free here on YouTube. She has a podcast, a blog, but also on her YouTube channel, she has a specific playlist dedicated to talking all about editing. On this playlist, she talks about some of the things that you should avoid in your writing, some of the things that if you're gonna hire an editor, these are the things they're going to be looking out for, so you might as well get a head start in fixing those things yourself. She also talks about the different kinds of editing, which is extremely helpful. Switching things up and going to a resource that I find to be just so much fun, and that would be the website Inkarnate. This website is a map designing website, and they have a thing now where you can purchase the maps that you create and you can put those in your works. So if you happen to be self-publishing a book, you don't have to worry about hiring somebody to make a map for you. You can make a map yourself, pay to use it, and for a very small price, and then you can put it in your book. There is, of course, just like with anything, a bit of a learning curve, but once you get used to how everything works and all the features they have for their maps, the maps that you can create are so stunning. You can make them extremely detailed, you can make them extremely colorful, you can make them primarily focused on cities, or you can make them focused on the landscapes. Definitely check this out. Having a map is so helpful, not only visually for you, but for readers as well. Speaking of things being visually helpful, next on this list would be artists. It sounds kind of silly, but if you have absolutely no artistic skills yourself, hiring an artist to create character art for your characters is going to be so rewarding for you. It's one of those treat yourself kind of things. And there are a lot of artists out there who have very reasonable prices for doing commissions. It's also very good to have character art when marketing your book. Allowing people to have a visual beyond just your book's cover is just going to help them see the story, see your characters, and start to feel a connection to the world before they've even picked the book up. Of course, not everybody is going to have the means of hiring an artist to do character art, so this is a little silly, cheap trick, but if you happen to have The Sims or any kind of a role-playing game where you can make custom characters, I highly recommend taking the time to make your characters on those games. It just feels like you are breathing life into your characters. The next resource on this list is one that I almost am hesitant to say, but I think it's incredibly valuable regardless of whether you like this author's books, and that would be Brandon Sanderson's lectures. The reason that I'm hesitant to talk about it isn't just because not everybody is going to like Sanderson's works and therefore they might not want to give credit to what he has to say, but I'm actually hesitant because I have seen a lot of people basically act as though Sanderson's lectures are the only resource that you need, or that everything he says is fact, when obviously there are a lot of different ways to approach writing. I think Brandon Sanderson's very open to that thing based off what I have seen of his lectures, but the way in which some people interpret his lectures is almost concerning because, of course, there are so many different approaches. Sanderson is somebody who is definitely a plotter, and there are other very well-known authors who talk about the benefits in their mind of not plotting things, of just sitting down and writing and letting the story come out. But I still think Sanderson's advice is so helpful. He obviously is successful for a reason. He's written a lot of books. He's written a lot of books that have been critically acclaimed, and he knows the ins and outs of the publishing industry. This is a class that is taught at a university, and he has this information for you for free online, so I definitely recommend checking it out. Next up, we have Scribner. Scribner is this awesome tool that is kind of like a substitute for Microsoft Word, but my favorite part about Scribner is actually a very specific function, and that would be their bulletin board function. I find the bulletin board feature extremely helpful if you are writing a multiple point of view story. It's helpful for any kind of a story, but a lot of times when you're writing a multiple point of view story, your characters aren't necessarily always going to be in the same place at the same time. So it's really helpful to see, do you have too many chapters with the same person in a row? Do you need to have more chapters of that person taking place closer together? If you have this one here and then this one way down here, but they're actually taking place around the same time, should they be closer? It's kind of like a timeline feature, except for you just can move things around without seeing it necessarily associated with time, just associated by plots. You can also have different points that are associated with different chapters. So you can have a little card on your bulletin board that you click on, and then that can be connected to what is almost like a Microsoft Word document, and you can have different parts. So if you have part 1, you can have your little bulletin board for part 1, then you can have part 2, have the bulletin board for part 2. It's just really helpful when plotting out your story. The next resource would be the NaNoWriMo website. NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month, and there's a specific month, November, where people try to write 50,000 words in that one month. It's definitely something that pushes a lot of people, and it's a really fun goal to try and attain, but there are actually a lot of things about NaNoWriMo's website itself that are extremely useful beyond just pushing you to write. NaNoWriMo is something that allows people to come together and discuss writing, and it's something that allows what is normally a very solitary activity to be a little more social. On their website, they have different people coordinating different meetups. So during NaNoWriMo, if you are interested in going to a local library, you can find other people who are participating, trying to attain their own writing goals, and you can connect with other writers. Next up, we have AuthorTube. AuthorTube is basically about being in a community as a writer. You will see people who document their journey in writing. You will see people giving their personal advice. You will see people giving their advice based off of experiences they've had. It's definitely something that you are going to find a lot of people who are probably in the same position as you as an aspiring writer. And again, just like with NaNoWriMo, it's really nice to have that sense of community, to have other people who you feel like understand what you're going through. The last resource is somewhat similar in that it also has to do with connecting with other writers, and that would be Facebook. There are tons of writing groups on Facebook, and sometimes some of the groups seem to be more focused on people just trying to talk about their book, trying to market their own book, but there are a lot of groups that are all about coming together and forming a community centered around writing. They are going to share things that they think are helpful. They're going to have discussions about things that they found frustrating, and it's really nice to see when other people are sharing similar struggles as you. That's it for 10 different resources for writers. If you have your own resources that you have found have given you lots of knowledge, please feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.